And welcome guys to another little video session that we have. And today's tutorial will be dealing with damaging NPCs and what it is to have natural resistance to certain types of damage. Today we will be concentrating on how we can make our character resistant to certain types of damages, but others ignore and just do straight damage to them, or have a combination of the entire damage type. Like a tank. A tank should be resistant to everything, right? Natural resistance, physical damage, blah, 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 blah. However many types that you want, you could probably write into it, and you can completely customizable make it that way. And that's what today's tutorial is going to be like. Because the Unity way that everyone does is they do take damage and it requires a flow of minus equals the health, and that's okay, but it kind of sucks. I hate tradition. I like different. So today we are going to actually look at a way where we can make ourselves resistant to certain types of damage. And we're going to get away from just passing a flow and killing the person. Because I don't know about you, but I think of a tank. He's resistant to everything. But then you've got like another class that's, let's say, a medic class. He takes 5 times more damage to bullets. Maybe, electric damage he's resistant to. Who knows? I don't know. It's however you want to write it into your game. So, let's take a nice little look at some coding. Alrighty. So, get the player, get the damage thing. Alright. Now, here we go. Now, this is a abstract class called Slot Health. This is basically for a lot of the basic functionality of a health class, except this time I'm making this a very abstract class. I make this a public float because we need access. We need to make sure every class below it, or our child classes, when we override certain functions, to be able to access this variable across the board. Now, yes, we could use a public get and set and everything else, but the thing about it is, okay, if you do a public get and set and it modifies it, well, you got a setter and then you got a getter. Why don't you just make it public and say the heck with it anyway? And then you're like, well, you can make functions to return types and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, you can, but you're still doing the same thing of getting something and setting a variable. So you might as well just make it public and get away from all that other nonsense of writing extra. Just, it seems like pointless code. I don't know about you, but it seems like pointless code at that time. So I just made it public. Now, you have this public void damageable. Now, it takes this class called take damage. And what this is another abstract class that does almost nothing. It's abstract take damage, takes a transform DD dealer, damage dealer. I made sure it was null by a default value, and it's public. Because, well, a lot of other things could be accessing. But then we have the start, which, we could actually delete this if we wanted to. But I'm just going to leave it in case we need to override it or do something funky with it. Okay. Then we have this public virtual void initial. And it takes a slot health. Okay. Which is our class here, which is initially going to be our health class, right? but we're going to have to derive it from another class. It's still mono behavior, but I want to flag this to make sure that nobody can just slap this class on and just go with it. I want them to make sure that they don't use this, because there's no reason for them to use this class, because this is just basically a constructor class to me. Now, we have this public virtual void take in damage, which requires take damage, okay, which is our damage dealer class, okay. Take damage, we're passing in here, and that's what this is mostly for, okay. So it requires this. Now the reason why I pass this in here in the float is because I always want myself to be passed in here, because take damage by default has a transform. I need that transform information later on when we start doing our UI stuff. Most games have a directional arrow pointing where somebody shot you from. You know, a little flag. Hey, this guy's shooting you from the left. Go kill him. Go beat him up, or whatever your game does, or give him hugs and kisses. You know, if that's your thing, there you go. Okay, so we have this N damage, E damage, K damage, and P damage. Okay, now notice all these do the exact same thing. And this is very, very important. Very important. Every type of damage that you want to make yourself resilient to later on in another script, let's say, actually, let's just go ahead and take a look at that script, which I call damage dealer. Okay, this inherits from take damage. So this is going to be the thing that you stick on your weapon when you're writing your code for your weapon. Okay, notice I overrided the start, and we called the base start, which is literally pointless. I think I had functions in there before, but you know, whatever. Now I have a float up here for damage 1, because I could have several different types of damage. Now this is the key point of this. I don't want all these variables to be here, okay, because I'm going to have X amount of weapons, and then each time I use take damage, am I really going to need to compare every single one of those? And the answer is, I don't know. It depends on what you want to do with your game. If you want every single... Well, let's go a little bit ahead, and this will explain. See this public void initial that takes this health slot? And then we use this health slot dot take natural damage. We pass this, which, because it inherits from take damage, it's the same type. It's using the base version of it. And this damage 1 here is a float. So the initial initializes the damage, okay? So this class, by design, is designed so that we can go damage dot take in damage dot take K damage. So we can call as many damage types as we want in here. And because this is a overridable function, in order to make another type of damage, all we have to do is inherit from take damage and write it in. Very simple to do. And then, you know, we can always, you know, just add into it. Notice I put my float for the damage inside of this class. and not inside of this is because I don't want to instantiate more variables than I absolutely need to anyway. So I put it in the child class. Now the really great thing about this is, and this is the reason why I've done this way, is every single one of these, the only thing that we're subtracting is the damage amount inside the constructor. So we don't need all these floats to exist. We just need the health to exist across the board. So I don't need all kinds of floats around here. I just use the constructor for this. Okay? And the reason why I don't do anything for damage resistance or anything in this is because when we get to our health classes, remember, they are abstract. This health class right here is abstract, meaning I have to write my own health script for whatever object we want. And because this is a virtual function inside the base class, because this would be a base class, if I do not override it inside the health class that I'm going to put on my object in the game and use that, then it will automatically default to these functions right here. So what this means is when I do a public override, okay, this is overriding this, okay? So think of it like this. This no longer has any effect in our game as long as it's this script right here. So I completely override it, and you see this in resistant damage? I put this in here, okay? I made it public so you can see it in the inspector, but I can always make it like this. Boom. Serialize it. Bang. Now this variable only exists on this script. Slot health doesn't care about it. But when we override the method, we're taking damage, we pass ourselves in, it has a damage amount. Where this damage amount comes from? Our damage dealer class. Because remember, this variable that only exists in our damage dealer class, this one, it's passed in here. So the overridable method that it gets, the method that gets called, is from this script. And it goes take damage, which is us, and then the float coming from the damage dealer class right here. Damage 1, damage 1. It doesn't care what type it is or anything else. The method that we call from this does everything for us. So slot health and the overridden method that we deal from our weapon will use this one. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so I have this rifle here, okay? Our rifle, it's in the base class, isn't it? Okay, sniper rifle. This is the traditional way. We search for a tag, which is a string. So I'm using a string, a switch to search for different tags. And we usually go target dot send message. And we search for a method. And the usual thing is to use a float here. What I mean by it is just the traditional way in Unity. Hey, you call a method, then you slap in a float, it subtracts it, nothing else goes on, and then when your health in the health script goes, below 0 or 0, you just basically die, right? Whatever your die logic is, yada yada yada. Well, in this system, we call the method and we call new damage. Well, what's new damage? New damage is a damage dealer class. You see where this is going? So when you're doing your weapons, if you want a different type of damage in that type of weapon, all you have to do is change this variable right here. You can put this anything that you want from an inherited class of take damage. All you have to do is write what class you have, and everything else will be taken care of for you in the damage, in the this initial function, damage dealer, right here. This is where all the logic gets taken care of in your dealing script. You do take damage. Hey, this is all written up. If you wanted to make another script, all you have to do is make a script, put your variables in, and then call any one of the constructors that's in slot health. And here is a very important factor in doing something like this. Slot health is your base class, right? So every constructor that you need to call has to be in your base class like this. You can overwrite it later on in any way that you want, but the constructors have to exist to be able to call them. That's why the parent class is very important for all your voids. If you want to overwrite it to give yourself resistance, like we did here, this is how you do it. And I hope that makes sense, because here's the thing. You can give 100% in your damage resistance, right here, 100 in that, and he will only take like 0.1 damage. Very, very low. So if your health is 100, like 100.0, he takes very little damage, and he's not 100% resistant, but he's very resistant to it, so he takes very little damage. So the other player's like, haha, you can't kill me very fast. He can either health up and then shoot you, but something like this makes it very flexible, where each gun could have, bonuses to like your sniper rifle, okay, could have the ability to kill everyone. Alright, that's cool. But the pistol, if you have a tanking class, he's going to take very little damage to a pistol. Like heavy, heavy armor. So what you'll do is you'll buff up all your resistance. You'll have all your floats in here, and then you'll override all the methods in here. If you want another resilience, you'll go public override E damage. Don't call the base version, that's bad. And you'll go up here, you'll be like, oh, yep, we'll do this. Copy this in here, and damage resistance. Well, we don't want in damage, we want float E resistant damage equals 100 F. So now if anything tries to kill you with E damage, you'll be resistant. Well, as soon as you put this float in the right spot. I mean, it would have done the same thing, but you know, you want this stuff to be adjustable, right? And I will make this a serializable thing. You know, you can make it public. It's whatever you want, really, in that. But I do this because I don't want other scripts to modify this directly. But the inspector, you know, it's the inspector, you know. So now NPC damageable is resistant to E damage and N damage. Okay. And notice this divides it, but in our base class, it doesn't. And like I said, I need this to have this functionality in the base class. So when this is called, it does something. Of course, if you're a real jerk face, and let's say you want a completely invincible character, like you're the GM and you shouldn't take any damage, all you gotta do is go in here, cross out all these, no damage taken. Ride, and we take K. Don't do the base version stuff. And then go in here, public, override, P damage, and then there you go. You have resistance to everything, and you don't have to worry. But, you know, that's a jerk face move to make. But you must override them, or they will fall back to the base version and take damage. So it doesn't matter what they do. You can't be killed this way. You know, and that could be like your GM script. Ha 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 ha. But make sure you don't do something like that, because that's a real jerk face move to make, you know? I'm not saying that, you know, do something to make your friends mad or your players mad and then like make them quit, because that would suck. But maybe this could be something that, you know, you enable through a cheat code or something for like your player in a one-player game. Now that would be fair. As in for the weapon stuff, I put this in the base class for my sniper rifle to use damage dealer, but every sniper rifle will now use this. So the only way that I can get around this is take this variable out of the class, and where we pass the damage, this virtual tag weapon, this right here, I will have to go into weapons that I make that doesn't, you know, I don't want them to use the variable up there. I will have to overwrite this method, which is fine. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's still kind of one of those things. Hey, you know, it kind of sucks, but yeah, whatever, right? Whatever. And to be honest with you, you can take this function right here and actually probably make it a static function and not even have anything going whatsoever again. But yeah, it's the way it is. Helper classes, stuff like that. But yeah, this should be sufficient for you guys to make resistance based on a damage type. Now, like I said, you'll have to make yourself a base class of take damage, which, you know, basically is abstract, and put your health thing here, and then have override it. So, you know, make a class, drive it from your taking damage script, and then override the methods in a way that you want. And then inside your health class, you got your slot health, which is your parent class. Make all the constructors for your damage types and make them just, do your float thing, okay? You don't actually have to have this, but it's nice to make sure that they actually have a target and stuff. Because if this was null, this constructor won't do anything. That's the beauty about it. So if somebody was tweaking around in your game, they will have a little bit of problem probably trying to fill this in. Or maybe they don't. Who knows? But, that's play it by ear, right? So just make sure it takes the health away and the damage amount by default in every constructor you have, and you should be fine. The thing that I call from the weapon to take damage is I pass it the take damage script, okay? Instead of a float, I just have it pass it a class. Now, you're probably like, pass a class every single frame, or every single time the guy takes damage. It doesn't make another take damage class every single time. This is a pointer function from your weapon, okay? Because this is a variable right here, well, this right here, this always exists. So the garbage collector doesn't collect it up because it always exists. And it's referenced inside the script. So you're basically doing the same thing that we do up here. The same thing that you do with a lot of your stuff in here. You're passing a permanent variable that's in this class and just throwing into a constructor just to call a function. It's not generating a new class every single time. Not unless you're going down here and doing new damage, blah blah blah, and then setting things. You don't do that. You don't do that. No. Just don't do something like it. Basically, what I'm saying is, don't do something like new, like vector 3 g equals new vector 3 like this, okay? This, no. Because here's what happens. You get this, and you need a variable. Okay, that's cool. Then you hit here, vector 3, new vector 3. This is telling the computer to make something new every single time you call this function in here, which is every single time we damage an NPC. That bad. Don't do that. Don't do that. Very garbagey collecting. That's why we use a reference copy here. It's just like when you call the constructor with the float. The float already exists in your game because you've put it up there at the top, or let's say right here, the smooth time. This isn't generated one, it's just generated one time in your program, permanently. Okay, that's one reason why I did this here. Okay, this equals something, okay, equals nothing. All right, that's fine. But when we do our kick functionality and stuff, it sets this variable, but it doesn't generate a new vector 3 every single time. It exists already, so it's using the same memory over and over again. So, I think this video is going long enough, and you know, I got the point across for damage resistance and stuff. So I think this should, you know, I should call over and out and give you guys a whirl, and hope you guys enjoy the video, like, hit, subscribe, and this is Wardon over and out. And sorry if I talk fast, I got ADHD, and I've drunk a lot of pop recently. Thanks guys, and appreciate your time. Good night.